Okay. Okay, you did it. Problem resolved. Good job, Sonos. So the new software and firmware version that we have been patiently waiting for over 3 months has finally been released. Sonos dropped the new 14.18 firmware on the 18th of October, Tuesday, as per their schedule for most parts of 2022. Now, thanks to Sonos for being punctual about this. The rigor of maintaining this schedule is actually a big welcome to consumers like me. Now, if this is the first time you're on my channel, I'd like you to know that I love to do upfront summaries where possible so that you get your answers upfront if you don't have time to stay around. Now, I'm happy to announce that 14.18 has solved the Trueplay issue with the Sonos Sub, mostly. Now, the sound is noticeably more balanced all around. The soundstage is great and expansive. The response curve is pretty flat, which is a good thing. You will probably have to redo Trueplay, and the bass heads in some of you might want to bump up the sub volume by about a +2 or so. Now, in short, great update, and you can safely upgrade the software on your Sonos setup now. Now, I hope this upfront summary is useful to you, and if my channel and videos have helped you in your Sonos ownership journey, I'd appreciate it if you could subscribe to my channel, leave a comment or a like to help this channel reach more people like you. Or you can leave me a super thanks using the button right down below if you'd like to buy me a coffee. For those of you who wants to do this on a monthly basis, you can head over to my Patreon account by scanning the QR code right here or linked in the video description down below. Now, I am a Singaporean content creator on YouTube. I'm based out of Singapore. And in Singapore, we speak a couple of languages and Chinese dialects, for the Chinese at least. Today, I like to introduce a new phrase to you guys to summarize what I think about this particular update. The phrase is Seh Liao. It's a Chinese dialect and most Singaporeans know it. Now, some might even classify it as English because it is such a common phrase amongst Singaporeans who even speak English. Now, in English, it loosely translates to "is going great." So if you're watching this video, type in Seh Liao in the comments section down below so I know you are watching this. And this simple phrase here summarizes what I feel about today's update. And today, you will learn a new phrase. And wherever you are in the world, there are 3 words. And these 3 words will bring us closer to each other. Thank you for learning Singlish. Now, I'd like to spend a little bit more time together with you to explore a little bit about the whole testing process that I went through to test this new 14.18 firmware release. And hopefully you can learn a little bit more about this and how it's helped create one of the best sounding Sonos profile so far. Now, for those of you who have not been up to speed, Sonos released a firmware version 14.12 3 months ago, and that broke the Sonos Sub output, lowering it significantly when Trueplay is applied. Is it a Sonos Sub bug or a Trueplay bug? Most likely a Trueplay bug. Now, it affected users of the Sonos Ray, the Sonos Beam, and the Arc soundbars, and of course pissed off quite a lot of customers like myself. Now, thankfully, Sonos did the right thing and admitted that there was indeed an issue. Now, to make matters a little bit worse, they also changed the volume slider so that the first 2/3 of the volume slider was actually a lot softer. So for the average person used to listening at volumes below the halfway mark, the output seems to have been tremendously reduced. So we have been waiting very patiently for Sonos to fix this, and with 14.14 and 14.16 released in the subsequent months, the fix was nowhere to be found. But today, this update, as I've alluded to in the upfront summary, it is more or less fixed in 14.18. Now, before I did the upgrade, I did a frequency response sweep through the Sonos Arc, which was paired with my Sonos Sub Gen 3, running on version 14.16. Now, this should serve as a baseline measurement for us to compare how 14.18 changes anything, if at all. Now, I usually don't reuse past measurements as things could have been a little bit different, like, for example, the mic is in a slightly different place, or the curtains are not in the same location or drawn as wide or as closed up, all of which will affect the sound. Now, this is the frequency response chart of the Sonos Arc with Sub Gen 3 on 14.16. The white curve is when Trueplay is disabled. And the moment you turn on Trueplay, the slightly darker gray curve, you will see visibly that the bass output from the system with Trueplay enabled has the bass output neutered. Basically, it's as though the sub has been cut out of the system. Now, even without measurements, you can hear it from the test tones that the sub output is substantially lowered. So as I have summarized, 14.18 fixed this. But by how much and how does it look like? Now, let me carry on. So the Sonos 14.18 update is broken up in two parts. The first update you should perform is the Sonos S2 app itself. Go inside the System Setting tab and check for updates. If your phone has not automatically updated the app from the App Store, you will be prompted to update the app. Now, once you're done with the process of updating the app, you will have to relaunch the Sonos S2 app, then check for updates again in the same System tab, and you'll be prompted with a firmware update. Now, this firmware update will take a while depending on how many Sonos speakers you have. I had like 12 speakers online at the time of doing the update, and it took me about 9 whole minutes. So if you only have one system, maybe the Beam or the Arc with the sub or ends around, it probably should take only about 2 to 3 minutes. Now, once that's done, I eagerly proceeded to check it out, right? Now, the first thing I noticed is that the app did not ask for Trueplay to be reapplied. Now, this was kind of disappointing to me at that point in time because in 14.12, the update forced all users to redo Trueplay. Basically, it was completely changed. And after redoing Trueplay, all the problems ensued. Now, in this update, if Sonos is not asking me to redo the Trueplay, does it mean that the problem was not fixed? So I calmed myself down a little and reasoned things out. Okay, so in the first place, reapplying Trueplay in 14.12 kind of pissed some users off. They might have been happy with the Trueplay in the first place, and there were also users like some of us who do not have an iPhone or an iPad to perform Trueplay, and that would have inconvenienced those users. So maybe Sonos this time around is doing the right thing by not wiping out the previously applied Trueplay profile and insisting that it must be redone. So, while keeping the old Trueplay profile, I did the frequency sweeps again on the Sonos Arc with the Sub Gen 3 on version 14.8. The light green curve is for Trueplay disabled and the dark green curve is for Trueplay enabled. This looks bad. Now, there are two things to note here. The overall volume throughout the entire curve for 14.18 with and without Trueplay has been increased. So in a way, they probably rolled back a little on the volume curve adjustments. So we don't have to pump up the volume so high. It probably makes us feel like we have a little bit more volume headroom. And as confirmed by Sonos, actually that was the case. They rolled back the volume curve. Now, the second thing that you would probably and definitely have noticed actually is that by turning Trueplay on, the bass output has again been killed off. And at that point in time, I wanted to throw my TV remote into the screen already. I was that pissed, right? Third update 3 months later. But then again, I would have just killed the TV and it wasn't even the TV's fault. So I calmed myself down to prevent any more collateral damage and started to pace the room around, but not waving my hands like I'm doing Trueplay. And I was thinking, oh, actually, what if I redo Trueplay again? So maybe they fixed the problem with Trueplay and maybe they didn't reinforce a Trueplay retune this time round. So what we should really do is to redo Trueplay. So I went about to do a Trueplay retune and a few moments later, I was done. And then for the moment of truth. So I quickly hit the remote. I kept anything that I could throw at the TV screen out of my reach. And I reran frequency response sweeps. Now, I'm going to be removing the 14.16 response curves. They are already history now, and they're taking up space and making the charts difficult to read. So on the screen, you'll see a red curve. And this red curve, yep, that's the response curve for the Sonos Arc and the Sub after I redid Trueplay on 14.18. Now, as you can see, you are seeing a very impressive lift in the response throughout the entire curve. A lift throughout the response curve is actually meaningless if it simply means that the volume is getting louder at any given volume. But that wasn't the only thing that changed. You can see at the bass region, it has been lifted considerably from 100 Hz and below, as compared to the dark green old Trueplay profile sweep. Now, in fact, it is now very close to the light green curve, which is with Trueplay turned off. Now, clearly, the bass output is still a little bit lower than without Trueplay, but the fact is that now it is actually quite close. And being close is the Trueplay at work. Now, it is seeking to lower the boom at the low region a little bit, taming the bass output in my room. In fact, that's the region below 70 Hz. Above 70 Hz, there's actually more bass coming out from the setup now after redoing Trueplay using 14.18. Now, let's step back a little bit, right? And look at the entire curve. Now, if you look at the entire rate curve from the left to the right, all the way from 20 Hz to 20 kHz, you'll notice that it's actually flatter overall. Now, I've been targeting my settings in my system to achieve as flat a response as possible when it comes to my listening preference. So, the rate curve is now lowering the peak of bass output at about 50 Hz and increasing the rest of the curves from 70 Hz onwards. Now, to achieve a overall flatter curve. So right off the bat, without even changing the EQ at all, Trueplay now tunes my system to a relatively flat response. So to me, I think that is a winner. Now, you'll still get a higher bass output from below 200 Hz with a subwoofer attached, but you will get a much more even response from the setup. So how does it actually sound like? Now, as usual, I played the track that I've been listening to and using to test. The entire soundstage seems to be popping up this time round in a very good way, right? It feels loud, it feels impactful, and the soundstage is really expansive. Now, this is my subjective view, but objectively speaking, the bass is definitely 100% back, and in a much smoother way. It is almost like the release of the Sub Mini actually taught the Sonos sound engineers that bass needs to be smoother and not too much in your face. I am seriously loving this update. Now, there will be some of the hardcore bass heads out there. Those of you, you know who you are, and you're not going to be happy as long as there's a slight dip in the bass. Now, there is about a 2 to 3 decibels lower bass output below 70 Hz, and the bass, while pleasant, may not please those of you who wants the subwoofer to punch you in your face, right? Now, I have a real simple solution for you, which will bring you to the yellow curve. So, what is the yellow curve? I simply apply a +2 gain to the sub output under the system setting. Now, with that, you're already in the region of the original bass response of the light green curve, which is the Sonos Arc and the sub output without Trueplay activated. And you have the added advantage of having a smoother and flatter response throughout the entire frequency range. Now, I usually test the systems before and after updates with the Dolby Labs demo files. If you want to have those files for yourself, now check out peterp.com where you can get the demo files. I've also put the direct links to the demo files here in the QR code so that you can just scan it and you will be led to that page. Now, this time around, I've been quite busy at work recently, so I didn't manage to make the recording for the before and after update as I usually do. But if you're keen, you can simply download the demo files right here and you test them for yourself. I will be quite sure you will be pleased with the results. So I have not done this test for the Beam Gen 1 or the Gen 2 and even the Ray, but I hope I'm right to assume that the fix helped those soundbars with the sub attached too. Now, this has been a great update, and I have not been excited like this with Sonos updates for a while now. They've been training me to be disappointed, but this time around, I think they saved the world. Now, it seems that Sonos has caught on to the way I've been tuning the soundbars to get a flat response curve. Now, because previous Trueplay, they seem to have reduced the sub output to make the response curves flat. But while the intention was correct to flatten the response curve, the execution of it by chopping the sub output is really not the correct way. Instead, they should have increased the output from the rest of the frequency range to level out the curve. And that, my friends, is what Sonos just did with 14.18. Thank you very much, Sonos. Now, expectedly, like everyone else out there, I was kind of disappointed with Sonos for breaking the sub with Trueplay, but with today's update and looking back, connecting the dots, I can see where this was all headed. I don't know if the process could have been shortened and they could have given us this update 3 months ago, but I see that maybe it's an effort to get consumer feedback and getting me to make a lot of noise before they understood and learn what we all wanted. Today, I'm very happy with this update and am glad that we are where we are now, and that Sonos has given us a well-rounded sound with a sub that is performing its duties in a much more integrated manner, striking a very good middle ground for all of us. Oh, and I have not tried it with the Sub Mini yet. I'm not sure if it did anything to the Sub Mini. I haven't had the time to do this. Now, when Sonos released the firmware, it was already like 10 p.m. at night for me last night, right? And I was just starting Interstellar, the movie, last night when the update dropped. And not to mention, the circuit breaker dropped in my whole house, and the whole house was left without electricity for the entire night. So thankfully, electricity has been restored, and now I'm back in action in the studio. So it's been just over 24 hours since the software release, and I'm out with this video. Hopefully, this convinces you that I'm dedicated to providing you with the information that you need in a timely manner, and that you'll buy me that well-deserved coffee right now using the super thanks button right below this video. So for those of you who are curious about the Sub Mini, if it's been affected, let me know in the comment section down below if I should spend some time to do that video. And if you have not yet seen my review on the Sub Mini, do check out this video right here where I was gushing about how much I love the Sub Mini. The Sub Mini pushes out less bass, of course, than the larger Sub Gen 3, but it is smooth control bass, and I am all for smooth control bass like what we have today. So I'll see you over in that video.